Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise, a leader's story, the podcast that uncovers real stories behind impactful leadership. Join us as we explore how leaders cut through the chaos, master powerful listening, and build cultures of accountability and vision. Whether you're a seasonal executive or an emerging leader, this is your space to learn, grow, and lead with integrity. Let's slice through the noise together. So welcome, Tony Dodd, to Slicing Through the Noise. And as a leader, what are some of the things that you've done over the many years that you've led people, led this organisation that allowed you to slice through the noise? And maybe to begin with, let's start with, some of your very early career decisions. Like, where did you start and how did you end up with 2 phones and a desk?
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer. It's great to actually be here. Talk about some of these things. People leadership's obviously a passion. How do we start and get to 2 phones and a desk? Yeah. Moving through high school, I guess I really didn't know what I wanted to be or do. My dad was he was in business. He was a successful leader, strong sales manager, and I guess he had an influence in that space. I think when you describe it back then, it's hey, yeah, I'll have an office job rather than go into a trade or something like that. So during high school, I worked in a bakery. I quite enjoyed cooking and worked in a bakery. I enjoyed being a pastry chef. Early leader there, a gentleman by the name of Trevor. He was a business owner. He owned the business. It was a small business, and that's where I got my first touch. I guess from what our products meant and what they meant to the customer. So the customer always came first. We couldn't put products on the shelf that didn't look good, that didn't taste good. Certainly, our customer service always had to be at an extremely high level, and he instilled that started me, I guess. But early mornings weren't for me. So being a pastry chef was not going to be the long-term objective. And we're talking about 1994. We're coming to the end of the recession in Australia, and jobs were a little hard to come by. So I was fortunate enough to be picked up at the time by an insurance company, and started in as a junior clerk, or more commonly known as a mailboy. And but I do say that it was probably the greatest job I ever had. I got to learn so much about not only the basics of how a business runs and the different structures and the different tasks and operations within it, but I also got to meet a lot of people. I got to meet everyone in the business, so it was great. And go through. So look, very fortunate. Timing was probably really good for me as well. The economy moved out of recession. That particular company was in a growth phase, and that growth phase was local for me. It was in Brisbane. So whilst I got to work work from the mailroom, I moved into the claims area, where you certainly learn a lot in claims. You learn a lot about the product. You learn a lot about people. And how you can help people when they're in their most vulnerable state. And as a young person, I don't think there's a bigger opportunity to learn than being there.
So I just heard so many fabulous things about what you learnt in those early years, and the time that I've spent with you, very much that whole thing about moving across the organisation. If you were giving, as a leader today, and you've got a lot of young aspiring people who think they want your job, what do they need to learn before they get to sit in that seat?
Yeah. They actually need to learn about themselves and what they stand for.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important, because you can't be fake as a leader. That is, you may be able to get away with it in other jobs, but once you're a leader, you can't be fake. You need to be 100% genuine and live and breathe your values. So I have some core values, some things that I stand really tight for, and as you have rightly pointed out, Jennifer, when your values are upset or disrupted by people is where you become probably the most cranky and irritated, right? So, and my values are around fairness, of course, around responsibility and around tenacity. So when I don't see those things, I know that irks me. So if I'm self-aware of those things, it allows then me to be a leader that I can be. So definitely understanding yourself is and being really self-aware of what you are and what you believe in, and what you see to become true is the most important and first lesson I think a leader can learn.
And what I heard in what you just said, which I absolutely loved, is that, you were a pastry chef and 2:00 in the morning wasn't for you. And then going and being the mail boy, there's a gift in that. And what I heard in your gift is you got to see every aspect of the business and deciding whether or not you want to be there. And then moving into claims, the thing that I just heard you say was you get to talk to people when they are at their most vulnerable. What do you think, as a leader today, what would you be saying to people and other people who are aspiring to leadership? What does it take to talk to people when they are at their most vulnerable?
Yeah, I've had a number of experiences of vulnerability. One thing I didn't point out, and certainly where a lot of the leadership learnings I got have come from surf lifesaving. So I've been fortunate enough to be, my parents put me into surf lifesaving, Point Lookout Surf Lifesaving Club on North Stradbroke Island when I was a 12-year-old nipper. And if you can imagine going through those ranks, obviously there was, again, you start at the bottom there and you learn and you work your way through. Of course, a volunteer organisation, but very humbling to be part of such a great humanitarian cause. And when you talk about vulnerability, and the word has become more prevalent and more widely used, I think, in the last few years, particularly from Brene Brown's expose and her learnings. And I think it's just a wonderful thing to teach. Vulnerability has often been referred to as that weakness. But I take it back to my surf lifesaving arena, and I can remember and being part of, or doing it individually, being part of rescues or being out in big ocean surf. And do you feel vulnerable in that time? Yeah. Is that weak? No. It's probably the bravest you've ever been.
Yeah.
And so having that exposure, obviously, seeing people obviously in their most vulnerable situation when they needed to be rescued, or family members have been rescued, harrowing experiences for people, and to see them in that phase really obviously opens your heart. But you can be vulnerable in those situations because it's expected. It's an expected reaction, but being vulnerable in general workplace, probably not so much. However, exposing that vulnerability, or exposing yourself by being vulnerable, gives you the greatest level of freedom.
Yeah.
I never confess to knowing everything.
You don't?
Jennifer? No, I don't. I do not. And I never confess to getting everything right.
Yeah.
And some of the valuable lessons you've learned is, don't dwell on that. Just open up, admit it.
Yeah.
Clean up your mistake and move on.
Yeah.
And do it as fast as you can. Everyone is going to fail.
Yeah.
That is, one of those things in life. They say death, taxes, you can add failure to that. It is going to happen from time to time, but the more you sit in a pity party, the longer you're going to be there. So
yeah, so no more pity party. I really do love, like, you've had some grassroots experience from having parents that saw that, putting you into surf lifesaving, and then going and starting a trade, and then saying, it's not for me, and then moving on. So let's just go from the early lessons of, I love 2 phones and a desk was your first day at GT Insurance in 2006, was literally an empty room, 2 phones, and you were tasked to opening the Queensland office. Yay!
Yeah. What a wonderful experience. Talk about putting yourself out there. And Chris Kindred and I, Chris, still a very good mate and colleague, started that operation together. And we were both in, good paying jobs. We were well remunerated. We were well looked after. We were very comfortable, to be honest, in our in the positions we were in before we started that day. So it was taking a significant leap of faith to start up a business on our own. But maybe we're not the first ones to do it. There's plenty that have done it, but it's nothing new. And to walk in that first day was a little bit different. No one was going to do anything for you. You had to do everything yourself. Go back to my mailboy days and went down to the post office and all of those types of things. So that was a little bit different. We were all in, so we just had to do it.
So those words you just used, you were all in. So what did that make or break moments in there teach you about grit and entrepreneurship? Like, it's something. Like, you're not everyone, and let's not brush it off. The truth is, most people don't. Most people do not do what you did. I'll just go from a good paying job with 2 phones and a desk and my mate.
Yeah, and at the time having a young family. So Chris and I shared similar values. So that from a business perspective was always, I was confident was always going to work. In fact, our conversations leading up to that day before we'd walked in was, I don't think that we had a business plan in mind, but we certainly had a strong connection about what we wanted to do. And that was around being highly customer-centric, knowing that we will set ourselves some goals and we just will not miss them, and that we will lift each other up and make sure that we achieve those things. So if we were going to go into it, those things had to apply. And it did. It was successful. It was that, and those first few years were hard. They were hard. It was a lot of hard work. We worked long hours. We worked long weekends. A lot of sacrifices. But to watch the business grow and be successful was the reward for it.
It's interesting to me, right? It's like you start this thing, your mate, 2 phones and a desk, right? And you grow it. So from claims to underwriting to sales to CEO, few leaders ever touch every side of an insurance business or any business before taking the corner office, hey? How did that 360 career path shape your leadership style?
Yeah, that's a reflective question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's having the understanding, and I wouldn't say I was strong technically. I don't understand every in and out of an insurance wording or policy, but having the understanding and of the empathy required in each of those roles really helped to shape that leadership style. So I understood what people were going through on a day-to-day basis, not the good, the bad, and the disappointing. It was you understood the levels of emotion and reactions that they would encounter on each and every day. One bad part to that was that you also understood what workload they should be getting through as well, and I have very high expectations of volumes, so that having to minimise that. But I definitely think the empathy it gave me a level of, it gave me an understanding to be empathetic to the position that they were in.
Yeah. So empathy as a leader for you became your guiding post. It's like if you couldn't be empathetic, what have you observed when people lead and they're not empathetic? What happens?
Yeah, well, straight away there's a disconnect, right, between the leadership and the people. That happens instantly, and from there I can see, or my experience has been, is that disconnect turns. It resonates, I guess, into a real us and them approach to things, and people became disengaged. I guess they really respond poorly to that lack of engagement in the business. It's you can see it nearly automatically when there is a lack of empathy, and that's at any level of relationship.
So you truck along, and in 2020 you take over the complete helm of the business, and you become the CEO just before the global pandemic. What was your first 100-day priorities like, and how did they change once COVID hit?
Yeah. To be honest, they didn't change significantly. It was just a different way of having to do business. My first 100 days was to ensure that I had a strong connection with the people, that they knew what the expectation was of them, that they had the knowledge and the resources to actually go about it, and they were really clear in their role. So that process, I guess, yes, we used to look at that in an ideal world, and you could travel around to all the offices and meet everyone personally and shake their hands and tell them the story and the journey that we're going to go through, and this is going to be exciting too. In February, I can remember the day really clearly, in February or March of that year, and I walked out of the hotel in Sydney, and I'd just been watching the news about this global pandemic, and I watched a whole lot of my staff walk up from the train station towards the office, and I went, this is not going to be good. Like, I've got 100 people in a sardine can, effectively. Like, what are we going to do about that? And went straight upstairs and ushered my team together, and I said, look, I know this is major, but I think we need to send everyone from home, and I need them all to be working from home, and we need to do it really, really quickly. This was probably 1 or 2 days before the instructions Australia-wide came out.
So hang on, just pause. You made the call before the call nationally was made.
Yeah.
How come you did that as a leader? So this is called prediction, hey?
Yeah, is it? Look, I don't know. I can vividly remember and I can still see today the people walking up from the train station, and there was in front of this group as they crossed the lights there at Berry Street, walking up Miller Street. There was a group of my staff out in front of that pack, and all of these people have come from the train station. They've all been on that. Like, it just sent a fear, and I was concerned for them, and I was concerned for their well-being, concerned for their families' well-being. Yes, there was the unknown around it. And I thought, well, if we can just get everyone safe for now, that's a start. So the concern came purely for the people aspect.
So under your leadership, this business posted its strongest organic growth under your watch. Okay, which strategic bets and product expansions did you use to move that needle so fast?
We we haven't really built any extra products. I mean, we were fortunate enough to merge with a business that was similar, that sold different products to us, but in the same industry. So specifically transport-related insurance products. So that should fit together like a hand in a glove. So that merger between GT and AM&T happened in 2023 and certainly helped with the growth of the business. But we didn't really expand our product base. What we did was make the most out of what we had. So there was definitely potential within our business that was unrealised and untapped. If we invested, not that we invested significantly financially, but we invested in people training, changes in processes, changes in culture, changes in mindset to get those products launched. Great benefits for our business because it gave us some really clear pathways from a progression aspect within all sides of the business, and it's been a good run. We've the next step's going to be even more exciting.
So, fairness for a personal core value for you. You're known for championing fairness internally and with customers. Can you share where that value overrode a purely commercial decision, that you were going to be fair and it overrode commercial?
Yeah. I think it happens all the time. I mean, the great phase that's come out in the last few years is called the pub test. Right?
Yes.
And with it's got a word to it and it's got a name now, but it really showcases the the thoughts of the community that we need to be fair. What is a fair outcome here? And of course, we sell insurance products, and at the end of the day, you buy insurance, you get a piece of paper and a wording from us, but more importantly, you get a promise. And that promise is, you know what, when something happens, I'm going to look after you, and you know what, you're going to be okay. And so, look, there've been instances where things. Nothing ever. Sorry, there's plenty of black and white scenarios in insurance, but there's certainly always some grey. And I think showing and having that fairness value when those grey areas appear has been very helpful to our business.
Okay, so if you think about your career path, starting off as the most junior person in the business, how do you look at the talent pipeline now as a leader? And, what help is in place for junior clerks?
Yeah.
And what's the opportunities that sit in front of them if they're willing to take it? Like, it's all about, are they willing?
Are they willing? Yeah. Measure the want, right? It's the only thing in business I think you can measure is how much do they want it and how much are they willing, how much they're willing to do it. I mean, we can teach them what to do. We can make sure they got the resources. We can make sure they got the learnings. But at the end of the day, they've got to want to do it. That goes from learning and all parts of career progression. So I look at the talent pipeline, and in general, I'm relatively encouraged. I think it needs some focus and certainly a level of slow down. I mean, it took me 25 years to be the CEO. Like, it didn't happen overnight. 25 years.
You're an overnight success.
Yeah.
A 25-year overnight success.
That's it. And but I'm encouraged by the level of inspiration and aspiration. Probably more the point. We shouldn't be trying to burn that or diminish that, but how do we mold that and how do we focus that to say, do you really want to do it? Like, people need to have dreams and people need to have visions, and those dreams and visions may change over time, but if their dream is to be an executive or to be a CEO, why would we try and squash that? But how can we how can we obviously mould it and reflect it and put the expectations around it to make sure that there isn't disappointment on the way.
Yeah. So, there's a wonderful conversation about how many CEOs are there in your business?
I think there's only one of me. Yeah. Official. I think
there's a few who think that they got it going, but you're the one, right? So there's only one CEO at Microsoft, right? So I constantly am saying to people, stop drinking Kool-Aid about everybody can do this. Well, no, everybody can't, because there's only one position and you can't have 10,000 people vying for that one position. What would you say to people who, if they have aspirations for senior leadership, what are the fundamentals that you say they better get under their belt? And it's not an easy ride.
No, certainly not.
So how about you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, significant sacrifice. And people need to be prepared for that. And you inadvertently, one of the consequences of being a senior leader in any business is that, and that's small or large, is that there is a significant sacrifice that and there is a price to pay for your commitment to work as opposed to personal. Of course, there's no judgment there. Both society needs a mixture of all of those things. So it's just that's the way it works. Look, I see it's really a little bit black and white in that people have the opportunity to either be technicians or they have the opportunity to be people leaders. And there's very, very few people that can be the technicians and people leaders and join up together to be totally successful. That doesn't mean it necessarily that makes a great CEO, but it's certainly my experience has helped. So work out which side of that you want to be. Do you want to be a technician? Whether that be, you want to be a wonderful salesperson, or in our business, you want to be a great underwriter or a really fantastic claims officer, or outside of that, if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, they're technicians. They're people. They're skills that needed. People leadership is a totally separate skill to everyone. In fact, there should be university degrees for it, but don't know who would teach it. Jennifer?
I think I could.
Because there would be so many teachers that would be required, but there's so many aspects of people leadership that need to be told about. Your particular courses teach one part, one very valuable part of
it's only one part.
Yeah, that's right. So I think understanding that, if you have a real passion and desire to be a people leader, then certainly progress down that path. It's a very easy thing for people to say I want to be a people leader, but I actually think it's a really small number that actually really want to be. Some might actually just want the title. To be.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about wanting the title of GM or director of whatever, and the reality of what it takes to lead people, because it's not easy.
No. So certainly the hardest task of all is leading people, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and they are personal, and there is no avoiding that. I don't. Anyone who doesn't feel the emotions as a people leader, I would love to meet you, because I don't know how you can do that.
Well,
because
it goes back to that whole piece that you started with. Is like you need empathy to be a people leader.
You do, and as I say, they give you the greatest of joys, the joys that can't be beaten, because they're personal, and they give you the lowest of lows because again they're personal. So understanding what you're going into there is really important. Understanding that you're going to get tested, you are going to get tested continuously, and it's not a 9-to-5 job.
Say more about that.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously the laws about contact after hours, and I fully respect all of that. But as a people leader, it's you when you finish work, you are thinking about the next day, and it's not the tasks that are at hand. It's not what you have to do, it's why you have to do it, which is the most important part.
Aha. You just said a little piece of gold there. It's not about the task. It's about what is required to be done or why you need to do it, because you're a people leader. You're not a task leader.
That's right.
Tell us more about that. Like, how did you learn that differentiation? Because people who aspire to leadership better understand that one.
Yeah. So the why are you doing that? Because the if you're purely focused on the task, then you'll get a task-driven outcome. But people aren't task-driven. They aren't a thing. They aren't an object. They aren't something that you can move and shift. They are a why. People want to understand what this is about. They want to understand why we're doing this. They want to understand what the outcome is for either, whether that be for a customer outcome or for their own personal outcome. So why are you doing this? And what is the impact? And what is the impact if you don't do it? So you may have in the morning to do a difficult conversation with someone. Now, no matter whether you've done that one time or you've done it 1,000 times, no one likes to do it. Of course, they're unpleasant. But why are you doing it? Because the why gets you out of bed in the morning. And the why isn't necessarily about that particular person or that particular issue. The why is about the broader team and the broader company. In fact, I think coaches don't have a problem having the why conversations.
Yeah.
And whether you're a successful sporting coach or a successful business coach or people developer, you don't have an issue because you understand the why. And when you have that why, when you have that reason for doing it, that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. That's what gets you into that meeting room, and that's what makes you drive through that conversation in that instance.
Because those difficult conversations are part and parcel of leadership.
They are.
And you can't get away from them.
And
or they're going to bite you in the bum if you don't.
And not just once. You know, they will come back and bite you many times. You hear words or phrases like management debt, or you hear those types of things. Well, don't get yourself in that spot in the first place. Look, don't get me wrong, we're all going to get there.
Yeah.
Clean up your mess as quickly as you can, because sometimes it's not easy to identify that a conversation needs to take place. But when I refer to the why too, we have a focus on the difficult, but what about the good?
Yes.
You know, there's good in the why as well.
Yeah.
Why are we having a team lunch? You know, why are we celebrating everyone's birthday? Like, why is it important we pick up the phone and answer it to the customers? It's the constant why. And if we can answer the why, that's what will continue to drive us through the business, not the task. The task isn't answering the phone, it's why you're answering the phone.
I think that's the most powerful thing when you're leading. Why are we answering this phone? Not what I have to say. Why are you answering it? Because if we can answer that when we're leading people, then they get a bigger picture of what this business is all about.
It is. It's the why comes back to the behaviours that you want, and the behaviours are influenced heavily by the values that you have, whether they be your personal values or your company values. Like, Tony, why are you so intense on our numbers? Why are you so numbers focused? Or why? Because I'm responsible and I promised people that I will achieve things, and you know, when I achieve those things, there's on-flow effects from it. So if we exceed our budget, it gives us opportunity to invest more in the business. That gives me the opportunity to invest more in you. It gives me the opportunity to get more people like you. It gives me the opportunity to invest in your training and your learning. But if I'm not, then I'm under pressure. I'm under pressure, and I've got to find savings potentially, because that's the reason why I want to achieve targets so that we can continue to do the things that we do, and not be under pressure to not get there.
So here's I know that like you do transport and logistics focus for where you've carved out a really powerful reputation in the heavy motor and logistics. So how are emerging trends of electrified fleets and autonomous trucks reshaping that portfolio? What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 or so years?
Yeah, I think
it's coming.
Yeah, of course it is. Well, it's here, right? So whilst we're seeing the emerging, well, it's not so much an emerging market of electric vehicles, passenger vehicles in Australia now, you can see the expansion of them, and particularly the hybrid type operations. So Australia is very vast in its geography. So the development and the continual development of long-range batteries and things like that are going to be really important, particularly in the transport industry. But from a mobility space in the taxi rideshare industry, certainly in the bus space, significant investment from government and business operators to enter into that space. Now we haven't seen. We've seen very limited autonomous vehicles at this stage, but certainly the electrification is happening, and it presents a different risk. So it's a number one, it's a totally different vehicle to drive. So if you can imagine the old diesel bus, and I'm sure we've all had the opportunity to be on one. It's very clunky and slow to take off, and hobbles along. Well, obviously been very effective for a long time. But the electric bus, a lot smoother, certainly greater reaction time from an acceleration point of view. So it's a totally different drive. And for those who have driven an electric vehicle, they'll see the same. I mean, the amazing stats and numbers of the volume of power that they can get out of an electric vehicle compared to petrol vehicles.
And it's clean.
Yes, well, it's clean from a user aspect. I think.
Who knows what's going on about making them?
Yeah, well, that's obviously the questions that will get answered down the track. But I certainly look at it is the way that society is heading. I can understand that it presents a different set of problems from a repair aspect and a maintenance aspect. So changing those processes and procedures is probably the biggest impact on our business. Autonomous vehicles they're already moving trucks across the United States autonomously, so that's exciting. Australia again will be in a great position to do that. But when you think about our main highways, you think about the main highway between where we are now in Brisbane and Sydney. It's 4 lanes most of the way. There's only sort of a bit of a turn there at Coffs Harbour. I say that generally, but the investment in that will make it a lot easier to be able to operate autonomous vehicles. Of course, when they come to the cities, there will probably be a time where they'll take where drivers or humans will take back over to guide them through.
There's nothing as good as us.
Oh, so we say. Yeah. I mean, look, it's a. Of course, I think there will always be a degree of human intervention.
Absolutely. I mean, I just think okay, we made them. Let's have them work for us.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been always amazed with you is like your commitment to community and personal leadership. So 35 years with Point Lookout Lifesaving. And as a serious volunteer in that leadership space, what parallels for you exist between patrolling a beach and leading a national insurer? What are the parallels? As you patrol a beach, you patrol your business. What are the things?
Look, if you can picture a surf lifesaver, and we go back to, let's go back to the 1960s and 70s, and you'll remember the reel line and belt. That took 5 people to operate the reel line and belt to go out and save one person. But you had a fantastic piece of equipment, obviously being replaced these days by jet skis and fast boats and things like that. But when you picture that, can you picture the teamwork that comes with it?
Yeah.
5 people having to operate that basic piece of equipment in order to achieve or fulfill the goal in that particular situation. So teamwork very definitely comes into it. I think when you're working in a volunteer organisation such as that, the level of trust is built nearly automatically by the time you pull on that red and yellow cap.
Yeah.
There's an automatic trust between yourselves, even with people that you've spent little time with, because you're there and you're doing your duty for that community. So, if I was to take away, if there's a couple of parallels between surf lifesaving and general and the work life, is that ability to be able to build trust, and the most important one is responsibility.
Yeah.
Be responsible.
Be responsible. What happens to you when your people aren't?
Well, that's not a question to ask. Lucky we're not on TV.
We're not, but you could talk about what happens to you as a leader, and if you are advising leaders around instilling responsibility, what happens to you when people aren't responsible? Because there's always our emotional response to it. And then there's, what does it take to build it as a cultural norm?
Yeah. I think building it as a cultural norm has been an area of development for me, because I have a high expectation that people will be responsible. So being
You just thought it would just happen, did you?
Of course, I did. Using words such as accountability and responsibility, taking ownership for things, and you get the nods of the head and the big glassy eyes. So, yeah, of course we are. But what does that actually mean? From my perspective, being responsible. Asking people to be responsible and asking people to take ownership is being really, really clear on what the expectations are. And if you can be really, really clear on the expectations, you've told them exactly what you want them to do. You've ensured and you've caught up with them, and you understand, do you have the tools in place?
Yep.
Do you have the resources? Can you do this? And then the last part is the want, and that's what you're measuring. Do you want to be responsible? Do you actually want to achieve this? Because everything's in place for you. So the reaction when they don't get there is obviously getting an understanding of what went wrong there. Why are we missing? What are we missing the mark here on?
Like, one of the things that I noticed, that you don't give up on keeping on asking what the heck happened and how are we going to correct this? What are we going to do to have this be different? So you were named CEO of the Year in the insurance business in 24. How did teaching your people being responsible and accountable for results, how did that influence, do you think, the judge's decision to make you that person? Because a big thing, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. Very humbling experience. I think, like most leaders, they would prefer to get up and get a team award than an individual award. It's, the numbers are the outcome. They look after themselves. If you're doing all of the right activity, the numbers will look after themselves. And everyone in the team needs to be playing their role in order for that to happen. So, again, getting back to the why. Why are you doing this? This is the impact that your position has. This is the why we have created this job. So do you understand how this fits into the broader team and how this works? Why do we have company values? Why do we have a vision? It all leads back to those things. I mean, company values, having a vision for the business gives reasons for people to wake up in the morning, doesn't it? It's an aspiration. It's why am I coming to GT when I can go work in any other place around here? What makes GT different? What's that vision? Right? So that's why we do that. And the values there set your behaviours. They're the core words that activities that come underneath it. So what behaviours are you displaying right now that aren't, what behaviours are you doing right now that aren't living up to our company values? It's why we have them. And I think it's the sum of all of that and being responsible around those areas that creates the end result. I mean, I look at the results on a monthly basis once. Only because I have to, because I've got to comment on them. I'm relatively confident that we're always going to be there. I don't need to look at it throughout the month and crack out the whip and push people along and things like that, because we're all responsible for getting there at the end of the day, and it's a good place to sit in.
So here's something that I think, I want to go back to your surf lifesaving, and I know you're still very strongly involved with that. How did like surf lifesaving means you're making decisions under pressure, big decisions, So give us an example from surf lifesaving or the boardroom or your senior leadership team meeting where rapid high-stakes decisions tested your mettle. Surf lifesaving certainly does bring that out, being able to make fast. And don't get me wrong, I've made fast decisions that have been wrong in all three areas that you talked about there. But being able to sum up and analyse the situation really, really quick, go from your learnings that you've learnt and your experiences that you've had in the past play a big part in those future. And I don't think that doesn't really matter in which environment you're in, or those two things, that your past experiences and your learnings play a big impact on the decision that you're about to make there. Now, those things come in, but the most important one is, does this fit in with your values and your beliefs and your company values and beliefs? So surf lifesaving around responsibility, well, it's instantly there. But who you're responsible for, it's not just that person that's in the water; it's also the person that's with you, and the rest of your teammates. You're responsible for all of those people as well. So there's a wonderful thing that I keep hearing as a theme in everything that you say, is that you're values driven, you're vision driven, and your decisions that you make are all against that. If it matches that, then we're good. We can have a look at this. I don't think that is intentional. Like, I don't think I do that intentionally. But it would probably be in practice now that I think about it. That's the way that's the way you operate. Yep. And when you're choosing people to work with you, do you choose them around where do their values sit? Certainly a great consideration. I don't think that when you talk about people, there's various steps in the recruitment process, isn't there? And when the opportunity comes up for someone to be part of your team in those initial processes, you can pick up pretty quick who's going to share similar values to you, and who's going to be able to live the company values as well. Pretty hard to sneak through when people are, they're excited and they're selling themselves in those types of discussions, and you can encourage that feedback. But when you look at it that way, I think very much it is that they are sieved through there, and then as you go through and do more analysis and testing of them, it plays a vital part. I can teach people how to be technically correct, or how to do a certain task. What we can't teach people is to have the want to actually learn and do it. Yeah. I know that that word I've heard you use over the years, do they have the want? Because if they don't, it's actually very hard. And that moves me into, how do you balance risk and agility? So the insurance industry is inherently conservative, yet you've embraced some pretty bold moves. How do you encourage experimentation without endangering your prudential soundness? Yeah, it's really understanding what does success look like.
and having your yardstick measurements along the way. I think it's really important for leaders to know it's actually okay to fail. Just do it really fast.
Fail fast.
How fast? Yeah, well, what does fast look like, right? And that's the key question. What does fast look like? So if you don't have those yardsticks in place to say, if we haven't achieved this by this, or if this starts to move that way, or the various things that you look, but particularly from an insurance perspective, if the numbers tell a really good story, but making sure that you have a well-rounded approach, because the numbers from a profitability aspect are one thing, but have you included customer statistics in there? Have you included people statistics? And are you looking more broadly at the why did you do this in the first place, and the statistics around that and the numbers around that? So it's really important to have those yards. What does success look like, and what's your measurements along the way? But don't be afraid to fail. It's going to happen. But fail fast. It's a familiar saying, but a really important one. The question that I say to my team is, yes, go have a go. What does success look like? What does fail fast look like? And if they can't tell me what those items are, then it's probably not. It's something that we need to think about further.
Yeah. So, talent for tomorrow. What skills or mindsets will the next generation of insurance leaders absolutely need that today's executives didn't need? What are some of the things that in the future, people that sit in your chair and in your team, what will they need that you guys didn't need?
Yeah, and we learn from a totally bunch of different leaders as well. And if when I start when I first started my career, was the focus and attention on people outcomes wasn't as strong. I think HR departments had only just started, and certainly they built into quite important parts of operations if used effectively. So what I would see is the skills that we're going to look for in the future is definitely imagination. Because the world is moving at such a rapid pace from a technology point of turning over much more faster than certainly what it was 10 years ago, and definitely from 20 years ago. So that imagination, that ability to be able to really have a vision and see what that future looks like is going to be a real key part of it, because they'll have to keep up. And they'll have to move fast. So having that in play, if you're going to have a business that is going to evolve, and they're all going to need to, and a successful business will continue to evolve, have a strong understanding of people. That's a very general, very very general word or task or skill that they're going to need to have, and that will need to be adaptable. So at the moment, having empathy is a good and a strong trait to have. Having showing vulnerability is good and strong trait to have. Will that be the same in the future? I'm unsure. I mean, I guess when we look at it, so it's being adaptable in your approach, but. Because what works today may not necessarily work tomorrow. But definitely from a people aspect, as the world continues to recreate itself, evolve, and become better, right? Like we don't do these things to go backwards. Taking the people on the journey and understanding what the dream and the business, what the dream and the vision looks like for the business is going to be really important.
So I'm interested in your mentorship moments, right? So who mentored you early on, and what single lesson do you still pass to your emerging leaders?
That's a good one. So it was in surf lifesaving would be the strongest one, and there's a I was a leader in surf lifesaving back then. He was a club captain at the time, and he was back then he would have been a young leader. He would have only been in his mid-20s. Went on to have quite a successful career outside of surf life. So his name's George Hill, and when I took on my first volunteer position within the surf club or within lifesaving, like outside of doing patrols, it was actually to be the assistant clubhouse director, which was obviously assistant cook for 40 or 50 odd people, and he actually came into me one morning, and with quite a firm voice. I obviously wasn't doing what I was told to do, and he said to me, "Tony Dodd, be responsible."
Wow.
And I can still see it to this day. I can still see his face. In fact, I reminded him of it at a social function last year. So I can still remember George saying that to me, and when they came through. As I said,
and that's something that I've heard you say to your people. Can you get responsible?
It's a pretty powerful saying, right? And, well, it was definitely powerful for me. I went, okay. Because it wasn't I wasn't getting blasted for what I was doing. I was getting blasted for why I wasn't doing it or why I should be doing it. Pretty valuable lesson. Right? Like, why do you need to be responsible?
Yeah. That's a cool lesson, and you still use it yourself.
I still use it myself. I don't. I don't know if George probably understands how powerful that message was. Look, I've had some great. I've learned off some great people throughout the years, both inside the businesses I've worked for, outside the businesses I've worked for. To name them all, I would definitely miss one. I think as people, our opportunity to learn and grow comes from all of the interactions we have. So have as many as you can.
That's a little piece of gold. Have as many interactions as you can.
Yeah.
And then learn.
And then learn, yeah.
And then learn and listen.
Yeah. Well, what do you like? What do you don't like? It's what works, what doesn't. And it doesn't mean if people, if leaders have different values, for me, makes them a bad leader. No, it just makes them a different leader. It doesn't mean that they're ineffective. No, it just makes them different, and that's okay. If we're all the same, we would be the robots of the future.
So here's your last question. When you eventually hang up the whistle as a CEO, what impact do you hope that you've left on GT, on the brokering community, and on the broader insurance sector?
Yeah, on the business, I've been pretty firm in that, is that, you know what, I want people to be better. I want them to be better brothers. I want them to be better mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, friends, uncles, aunties, cousins, whatever they might be. I just want them to be better at it. And if they're better at it outside of the business, of course, they're going to be better at it inside of the business. From a customer base, I would just hope that we have lifted a level of customer centricity within the industry, that we have set a new benchmark for others to either beat us, because that's you're setting those challenges. We would like to have worthy rivals trying to better what we're actually doing. And from a community aspect, I would hope that the community sees insurance as being fair. You know, our vision is being all in to protect people's livelihoods, and it's actually what insurance does. It's just an accumulation of money that protects people in the event of something bad happening or something that's unforeseen happening. And I believe as an industry that we work really hard to get there. Of course, I understand why there's been negative comments and press around it, but as an industry, I actually see us really working hard to
wanting
better
to do
the
what's
outcomes
right.
of people. Of course we do. We do. And we don't get it right all the time.
Well, thank you, Tony. One of my greatest pleasures has been having many conversations with you about what it takes to lead. Great conversations about your philosophy on what's important and what's not. And one of the things that I will always remember in our conversations was, you know, and you said it today again, what does it take to be responsible, and why are you doing that, and have they got enough want? Because if they haven't got that, then let's go home.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. And I've really enjoyed the teachings that I've had through integrity and values as well. It's put a new perspective. Certainly being able to name and be specific around a number of the, I guess, challenges that people have when leading people, and if you can follow a number of those footprints that you guys have established, I think that we will have a much better cohort of leaders moving into the future. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, that wraps up today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and want to keep the momentum going, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss the latest insights and stories from extraordinary leaders. We appreciate you tuning in and can't wait to share more with you soon. Thanks for listening.